Well, hello, everyone. I am Matt Williamson, at Williamson NFL. We're going to do things a little different. Instead of Thursday, Friday just being massive stats and a little bit of reaction, I think for tomorrow, I'm going to pick out 10 stats, that I think are the biggest ones and just talk about each, offense and defense. So today, I want to do an overview of the Giants, some things that apply to both sides of the ball, some big picture stuff. But I also want to talk a little bit about Cooper Kupp. DeAndre Hopkins, Nuke Hopkins is now a Chief. So I would assume they're out of the receiver market. I think Tampa is very much in the receiver market after the injuries they suffered. And I wonder if the Chargers would be interested in somebody like Cooper Kupp or Christian Kirk or, a receiver, bring Matt Williamson back, something along those lines. We haven't talked a ton of Kupp. I think he's really good. Well, first off, let's talk about this. You're going to listen to this on Thursday. He's playing tonight. I'm recording this on Wednesday. So if he happens to get traded between now and then you know why I'm talking in this tone. But if the Steelers were to trade for him, or teams that are talking with Kupp right now, I just find this kind of interesting. Like if you're the other team, not the Rams, do you want him to play on Thursday Night Football? Not that you could then get him for Sunday after. You wouldn't. He'd stand on the sidelines for Monday Night Football if you're the Steelers, even with that extra day. Or would you say, don't play him Thursday? We could get him here Thursday and maybe have a handful of routes like Amari Cooper did this week, But why I bring that up is he hasn't played since his injury. So do you want to watch that tape of Thursday Night Football before you pull the trigger and make sure that he's healthy and moving around as well as you can? Or do you just trust him and the doctors and, his agent and say he's fine? Because I thought he was going to play last week, but they scratched him like right before the game, which made me think, well, they're about to trade him. So I think all that's interesting. Plus, with the Steelers' perspective, you would have the extra day if he doesn't play Thursday. You could get him here, maybe run a few routes. But more importantly, you have the bye after that to really get him acclimated. So I just find that interesting. Like, what's the best timeline to get him here, to get him in pads? But the fact that you have a bye immediately is great. Coming out of the bye, he's ready to go, of course. But could you get anything out of him before that? Or would you rather see him on Thursday night and then he just stands on the sidelines for Monday? I'm jumping to conclusions, but that would cost you have to think about those things of, the semantics of getting him to Pittsburgh and all those things. I still think he's really good. He's 31. He's not cheap. They apparently are asking for a second round pick and they would help a great deal with his contract, which means you could probably get him for a little less than that. If that's what came out, if that's what Schefter's reporting or Pelissero, you probably means that's the most you'd have to pay for him. From a Steelers perspective, though, if that is the price, which I think the price would even be less than that, 90% of that or something like that, I would go to them and say, we'll figure out the contract and give you a third instead of a second. You know what I mean? And overall, I'm more in the third neighborhood for Kupp. I don't know that I can part with a 2 for him. At his age, with his injury history, and he's mostly a slot. He could play opposite Pickens, of course, but the Steelers don't run 3 receiver sets and still wouldn't with Cooper Kupp a lot. They're still going to be at the bottom of the league in 3 receiver sets. Now, yes, he would be out there in 2, but he wouldn't be doing what he does best as a true slot in 3 receiver sets. See what I'm saying? But I think his personality, his blocking, all that stuff would be really beneficial. And he's a get open guy. He is almost like a fullback blocker, which is why he's been injured to some point too. They put him in motion and wham block guys and defensive linemen, he has a great mentality for this football team, for this locker room. And one of the things I was a proponent of putting Wilson in the lineup, not that it's a knock on Fields, is they don't have a ton of offensive older leader types, the Cam Hayward on that side of the ball. Kupp, I think, would help in that regard. So I would be very interested. I don't think definitely not first, but I don't think a first or second round pick is available if I'm Omar Khan for this deal. I would need a lot back. Like Kupp and a fourth for a 2, something like that. But still, I think it's more third for Kupp, and we'll figure out the contract stuff, or you'll figure out the contract stuff, but maybe you swap late picks or something too. But that's where I'm at on it. And I think it's something that's possible. But man, these receiver conversations, we seem to have a new one all the time, and they always linger, and it can be a little annoying, but it's also kind of exciting. I do think he will get moved. This episode is brought to you by BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. From the NFL to college, BetOnline is every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to the online casino and get on the game of blackjack or poker or one of over 150 slot games. Head to the website today and use promo code BELIEVE, all caps, BLEAV. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right, getting to know these Giants. They're not very good, but they have some strengths. They rush the passer better than any team in the league. And frankly, I was just on another call. Yes, this is a bad team. A lot of it's quarterback, to be honest with you. Like, just talking about the Rams. If the Rams are getting out of old guys, if you threw Matthew Stafford on the Giants team next year, I'd be like, all right, with Andrew Thomas healthy at left tackle. So they have some dudes. Dexter Lawrence is a superstar. Neighbors is going to be a star. But Giants are 2-5. Both their wins have come on the road. 2-game losing streak. They've been outscored 45-10 during that 2-game losing streak. The Steelers are 5-2, as you know, 4-1 in the conference, which is great. No, obviously this isn't a conference game. But the Giants have been outscored by 50 points this year. The Steelers have outscored their opponents by 60. I mean, that's the second best in the AFC. The Steelers have a plus 68 second half point differential. That is massive. Speaking of massive, this is crazy. So the Giants' opponents average 1.5 yards per pass attempts more than the Giants. That's not good. But they also average 1.5 more yards per rush attempt than the Giants. That is massive. I mean, every time a ball is handed off or rushed in a Giant game is minus 1.5 yards for the Giants. I mean, brutal. Giants are -2 in turnover differential, only 1 interception. The Steelers have 8 more interceptions than their opponent and have only thrown 1 all year. The Steelers have also gained 137 more yards than their opponents off interception return yardage, hidden yardage, Pittsburgh has just 4 giveaways in the whole season. Going back to last year, 2023 season, Steelers have the league's best turnover ratio. They're plus 20 from these 2 seasons combined, plus 9 this year. Pittsburgh's defense is intercepting 3.9% of the passes thrown their way, compared to the Giants are at 0.5%. Turnovers per drive, only the Bills and Commanders are better than the Steelers' offense, and only the Packers, Vikings, and Bears are better than the Steelers' defense. New York only had 24-40 of time of possession last year, but they're still over 30. They're at 31-30 for the season. Steelers are a little over 32. So that's actually kind of close. Steelers have run the ball 77 more times than their opponents, and they average 53 more rushing yards per game. They also have 5 more rushing touchdowns than they've given up. On average, the Giants run 64.7 plays per game. Steelers are just behind that at 63.1. But Pittsburgh's opponents are averaging only 57.9 plays per game, and New York's is only 58.4. So there's a big discrepancy in New York's of running a lot more plays than their opponent. And one thing I need to look into is just how fast do they play? Do they play a lot of hurry up? I mean, they do throw the ball a lot, and that stops the clock. But, where are we at here? New York allows 5.4 yards per rush attempt. That's the highest in the league. And the Steelers allow 3.4 yards per rush attempt. Only the Ravens are better. The Giants and Steelers are 4th and 5th in terms of lowest average time to throw against them. So teams are getting the ball out of their quarterback's hands quickly, which makes sense because while the Steelers don't have anywhere close to the same amount of sacks as the Giants, these are two of the most feared pass rushes in the league. Giants opponents have committed 51 accepted penalties compared to 36 by New York. And they are plus 119 in penalty yardage differential, which is a big deal. Steelers' average drive starts, they're third best in terms of offensive starting average drive position. A lot of times you get a pick at midfield. Special teams have been great. And on the other hand, the Steelers' defense starts with better field position than any team other than the Saints. So on both sides of the ball, they've been phenomenal with starting field position. This is crazy too. Russell Wilson has a career record in primetime games of 33-17-1. That's the 7th most wins in primetime history. And if he wins, he'll tie Brett Favre at 6th. Daniel Jones, you ask, is 1-14 in primetime games over his career. That's the worst winning percentage since 1970 of quarterbacks with at least 10 primetime starts. And it doesn't matter if it's Monday night or Thursday night or Sunday night. They're all bad, and his stats are horrible on night games. Last thing we'll end up here, 75% of the teams that started the season 5-2 since 1990 went on to make the playoffs, and 43.5% have won their division. That's where the Steelers sit right now. If they win, they get to 6-2. Those numbers go up to 82.5% and 54.5%. But if they fall to 5-3, that drops to 64.1% and 29.7% to win the division. So there you have it. A lot more matchup stuff tomorrow. Both sides of the ball, prediction, all that good stuff. Over and out.